Maybe it was because it was 2021 and nothing remotely interesting was released in theaters that year, but for whatever reason, Zack Snyder's Justice League was one of the few things I was actively looking forward to during that time frame. While Zack Snyder's Justice League wasn't disappointing per se, there was one glaring thing that stood out like a sore thumb to me: Batman. Now ironically, Batman's interpretation in Zack Snyder's Justice League was head and shoulders above the chubby version we got in Joss Whedon's theatrical release, since most of that movie was worked from the ground up through reshoots. But I couldn't help but feel that there was just something a little off about this portrayal of Batman in the Zack Snyder version. The thing that felt missing to me was that the ninja skills of Batman were completely missing. This is obvious in the scene where the League is heading down into the sewers to investigate an alien threat. Instead of having Batman act as a scout by sneaking ahead, assessing the situation, and covertly taking out sentries, he's instead nonchalantly leading the group of superheroes slowly down into the sewers without any hint of his ninja skills. But just imagine how cool that scene could have been if Batman had been prowling around in the dark, taking out enemies one by one without anybody noticing. That would be awesome, right? Some critics weren't happy with the idea of Batman becoming the de facto leader of the Justice League, but I could have gotten on board with the idea of Batman being the head honcho had they not forgotten who Batman is and what his unique skill set brings to the Justice League team. To sum it up nicely, when asked about his superpowers, Bruce Wayne simply responds,
"I'm rich."
In Zack Snyder's Justice League, that really seems to be his only superpower. What's sad about this is that, for whatever reason, Snyder's portrayal in Batman v Superman did a much better job of portraying the character of the Caped Crusader. Not that this portrayal of Batman was perfect by any means, but you at least get the sense that Batman is just as competent at prowling around as he is punching bad guys to a pulp. He's so scary in Batman v Superman that even the people he rescues are terrified of him, as shown in the scene where Batman is first introduced. But as I previously mentioned, any hint of this idea of Batman was thrown into the wastebasket to make Batman a more approachable character, which in reality was very much a disservice to the character. But before I put all the blame on Zack Snyder's shoulders, let's not forget that the man, the myth, the legend, Christopher Nolan himself, fell privy to this same trap of losing sight of the Caped Crusader's unique skill set. Batman Begins still ranks as possibly my favorite movie of all time, primarily due to the tight and focused storytelling, but also because it took the history and skills of the titular character seriously. The screenplay made a point to emphasize that not only was Bruce Wayne going to take the fight to Gotham's criminal underworld, but it explained how he was going to do it. His fight with criminal gangs wasn't going to be an outright battle, but a cold war of investigation, stealth, and fear, as he worked to build up the legend of Batman.
People need dramatic examples to shake them out of apathy, and I can't do that as Bruce Wayne. As a man, I'm flesh and blood. I can be ignored, I can be destroyed, but as a symbol, I can be incorruptible. I can be everlasting.
But by the time the Dark Knight film came along, Christopher Nolan's Batman had seemingly lost all of his ninja skills, and had no appetite for sneaking around in the shadows. Gone were Batman's use of stealth and fear. Now the Caped Crusader was more than willing to conduct his business out in the open and in lighted places. Aside from a few instances, we rarely get a hint that this is the prodigy trained by the League of Shadows, so eloquently shown in Batman Begins. In Begins, did Batman brawl with thugs? Sure. But the moments leading up to the action set pieces were filled with dread, anxiety, and fear, as Bruce Wayne used mind games in the environment to mess with his opponents' heads before engaging them head-on.
Where are you? Here.
For as great of a movie that The Dark Knight is, the loss of Batman's identity as a stealthy operative who uses fear as an offensive tactic is always a point off in my book. And by the time The Dark Knight Rises came along, Christopher Nolan's Batman universe had transformed into a pseudo-war film. Batman becomes an outright war hero in this interpretation, as he leads an army of cops against Bane's henchmen in a heated battle in the dead of day. While I love and appreciate each of these films to varying degrees, every time I view them, I can't ignore the voice in the back of my head telling me that there's something off with each of these representations of Batman, aside from his portrayal in Batman Begins. And don't even get me started on the Tim Burton films. While I enjoyed the Burton and Schumacher movies when I was a child to some extent, as I got older, my enjoyment turned into distaste at the utter disaster of Batman's portrayal in those movies. This brings us to the yet-to-be-released film, The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves. While it's taken me a while to warm up to the idea of Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, much as I did to the casting of Ben Affleck, the first teaser for the film blew me away with the dark and moody vibe it's presenting. But with the new trailers that have been released, I've begun to question the same thing I've questioned about all the other Batman films. Will this interpretation of the Batman show our hero as a ninja or an out-and-out brawler in this film? I do not doubt that Reeves will deliver a solid and entertaining action film, but will it portray a Batman who uses his mind and stealth over brute force? One scene that worries me is the one where we see Batman emerging from the darkness as thugs blast him with fully automatic weapons, but because of his armored suit, he's untouched and promptly takes the bad guys out. While I'm not opposed to the idea of body armor for Batman, much as it was used in the Nolan trilogy and Batman v Superman, turning Batman into an armored tank of a character seems to defeat the purpose of who Batman is and what he's capable of. If Batman can just stroll into any dangerous situation, unafraid of a hellstorm of bullets, not only does it stretch plausibility, but it also makes his character far less interesting. In conclusion, I guess that what I'm getting at is that I really want the Batman to be really good. But Batman needs to be different from other heroes to make that happen. He needs to use his wit, intelligence, and ninja skills to get the job done. Unfortunately, it seems easy for filmmakers to lose sight of what makes Batman great. And without that focus, it's easy for Batman stories to go off the rails fairly quickly. Here's hoping that The Batman will turn out to be a terrific Caped Crusader story. But in my book, I doubt that any Batman movie will ever top Batman Begins for me. But enough from me. Have you seen the new Batman film? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.
What's your interest in it, Mr. Wayne?
I want to borrow it for spelunking.
Spelunking.
Yeah, you know, cave diving.
You expecting to run into much gunfire in these caves?
Look, I'd rather Mr. Earl didn't know about me borrowing.